Hello and welcome to yet another video. This is the 12th episode of the story, and a chance meeting leads Naruto Uzumaki to learn Genjutsu. Sure, he lacks talent, but once Naruto sets his mind to something, he will never give up until he completes it, and Naruto will not stop until he is a master of Genjutsu. Please like and subscribe to show your support. Now let's begin. Chiyo's funeral was a peaceful occasion. As soon as her death was confirmed, a moment of silence was held to honor her and her body was laid to rest without delay. Despite her objections in life, her brother Ebizo had placed a headstone on her grave. A large number of locals came together to pay their respects to the esteemed elder. Gaara was all set to deliver a brief speech. Lady Chiyo's courageous decision to assist our fellow Leafs was a momentous occasion, given the sacrifice she made. Her expertise played a significant role in prosecuting Sasori of the Red Sand, our village's most notorious criminal. She is the reason why I am here today. You can read more about her here. The legacy of a ninja is defined by their death, which can be described as either indignation or honor, peace or war. Our village was sustained by Lady Chiyo's support, and her contributions will continue to shape our community for generations. She was a person who made many mistakes, some of which were more significant than what you would expect. With a strong sense of morality, Lady Chiyo made an effort to make amends for her past mistakes as she passed away. She gave her life to ensure that the next generation of the Hidden Sand achieved success where she could not. She's a role model for you, so I want you to follow her example. You can change yourself for the better, regardless of who you are or what you have done, as long as you take a deep breath. It is natural for us to struggle and fail, but it is also possible to surpass ourselves and assist those who are struggling. The Hidden Sand and its inhabitants in the village will truly thrive if they do so. Towards the end, Gaara closed his eyes and offered a silent prayer for Chiyo. Gaara had been responsible for organizing his fair share of funerals since he became Kazekage. It was never pleasant, but it was his responsibility. He had personal connections with many of the deceased, which allowed him to honor their departure in a way that they deserved. Chiyo was unknown to him until her death, but he knew of her role in confining Shikaku. He had a tendency to hate her because she was obeying his father's commands. She was able to avoid his anger mainly because there were other individuals waiting in line for him to be killed. It was only after he had moved on from his hatred that they finally met. She had remorseful about his sealing and accepted her apology for what it was. What is the value of expressing regret after doing something has already been done? By reflecting on resentment, one could find acceptance. It was not sensible to hold on to hatred. Learning to let go was not an easy task, but he knew it from personal experience. The sight of the villagers' amazement and reverence filled Gaara with happiness. He had no fear in his mind. The sight of him returning to them brought tears of happiness. Despite the difficulty in explaining his respect, he was still fond of it. The fact that he was alive made it more difficult to fathom. Despite his failure to defeat Deidara, he managed to save the village from his bombs. He found solace in knowing that his people would live long enough to accept his imminent death. Nevertheless, he was standing in solidarity with Chiyo, who had given up her life to rescue him from the brink of death. After the crowd dispersed, Gaara stayed at Chiyo's grave to reflect on the significant changes that had occurred. If his father could speak to him now, what would be his reaction? What about his uncle Yoshimaru? Their treatment and betrayal was a wound that had healed, but every time they opened their heart, some remnant of the pain they inflicted on others would surface. He was resolute in the knowledge that he would not repeat the mistakes of his predecessors, believing that as leader and human, I have found my place. Gaara perceived the winds rustling and then the shuffling of light footsteps. Naruto said, "There you are," and Gaara looked at him with a smile on his face. Naruto was struggling with trauma and despair, bottling up his pain and isolating himself when he left the Hidden Sand. Gaara had sympathy for him, as he had undergone a very similar experience. Given that Naruto had already assisted him, it was fitting that he also played a role in helping to revive him. He had a relaxed posture, with his hands down the sides and shoulders free. They remained the same height, and his blue eyes were radiant with little sign of pain or fury. "I am pleased to see you here," Gaara stated. The sun was not shining as brightly in the sky. It was undoubtedly time-consuming to contemplate deeply on his life and emotions. Naruto inquired of "How are you?" The question was left unanswered by Gaara. Naruto's voice had faded slightly, and it wasn't going to be an effective response, making it unsatisfactory. "Is teared too often?" He had recuperated, but tiredness was a burden on his limbs, and for the first time in his life, he seemed content with sleeping. "Excellent honor. The most important thing is that I am happy to be here, among the living things. It's also true for me. Gaara, I'm pleased you joined us." Naruto asked, "How are you?" with a smile. "Astonishing. My head was sorted, I gained proficiency in new jutsu, and I formed strong bonds with my friends. The Nine Tails were able to assist me, even though his friend's smile was dimming." En guard? Gaara's expression was grimacing. "It is a regrettable loss. Had Yujito-ni not introduced the concept that tailed beasts were more than just monsters, he wouldn't have made such a statement. During the few times they had met over the years, she gave him advice on how to communicate with Shikaku and developed a bond that went beyond their shared struggles. It was true that Gaara had been worried. His life was miserable because Shikaku kept him from falling asleep and tried every means possible to sever his seal of approval. The Sand were proficient in sealing, but Shikaku excelled in adapting. Ultimately, it had made its escape from a tea kettle filled with the most powerful seals their village could conjure up. At times, the tailed creature would talk, which is how he discovered that Shikaku was not a spirit that had assumed the form of an old priesthood. Shikaku's first Jinchuriki had owned a tea kettle and was kept under strict supervision, shielded from the outside world, which led to the creation of the myth. Shikaku had been treated with kindness by Bunpuku, the Jinchuriki, but that was an anomaly, and he was unwilling to be friends with someone who would eventually pass away. Even so, Gaara persisted and he was close to becoming acquainted with Shikaku before the Akatsuki launched an attack. The peace of mind they brought up during their breakup was not worth the agony that Shikaku must have endured. With a hand in Gaara's hands, dusty sand was floating around his fingertips. "He will always be present and relied upon. He won't do it, no doubt about that." I was taken aback when I discovered that he still had the ability to handle sand. He believed it was a gift from Shikaku being contained within him just before his birth. Yashimaru's belief that the sand held his mother's sentence and her will may not have been a mere fabrication. Considering that he had the ability to manipulate the sand with his own chakra, contemplating it was ultimately pointless. Naruto's fistfight with Deidara was heard, and he said, "I defeated him." Unrelenting agony filled his entire face and eyes. "Gaara, I took their life. He took you captive. He sat on your body and warned me that no one would come to your aid. He was mistaken." Gaara perceived a warmth in his chest. "My friend, I am grateful for your help. Thank you so much." Despite his sadness, Naruto smiled and then gazed at Chiyo's gravestone in contemplation. "What motivated you to lend a hand to Chiyo?" Gaara inquired. Naruto maintained a fixed gaze on the gravestone, but relaxed his fists as he laid his eyes on it. "She rescued you from the Rubio," she said. She was ready to rectify the situation. She was entitled to witness the village she fought for one last time. It was a highly respectable gesture. Unexpected, too. He had a better understanding of the situation than to underestimate Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto inquired, with a frown on his cheek, why people would act so unkindly towards their community. "I understand the frustration of dealing with adversaries, but what about those who cause harm to you, your loved ones, and yourself?" Gaara also scowled. He had not yet found the answer to that question. They may want their village to prosper, but they don't see a better way of ending the violence and suffering that this world causes us. I have caused the demise of my fellow ninjas. They are aware that I would do the same in their stead, and they are ready to die for our community, but it is always sad to see my fellow soldiers' lives taken away without warning. If it meant saving their lives, I would do everything in my power to help them. Are you willing to betray your people? Gaara asked. No, not at all, she said. He expressed gratitude for not being compelled to make decisions like his father had. He would promptly turn it down, and the expenses of doing so could be too much to bear. Death was not the most terrible fate. Our lifestyle is excessively savage, and it's not just any good thing. My aspiration is for the hidden sand to become a village where everyone is treated as valuable tools and not just weapons, rather than machines. There will be a time when we don't have to kill each other for success, and no one will ever know the pain we endured. Naruto's eyes glowed with clarity, as if they were polished into a piece of glass. Are you ever going to have that kind of peace? Gaara sighed. I'm not sure, but it's a dream that is worth fighting for. Naruto's smile was a sweet and bittersweet expression when he looked at him. Gaara, you're a remarkable individual. Lady Chiyo stated that she was unsure of how to use her power to make a positive impact on the world. Your words prompted me to ask, what happened? Is it possible that there is a solution? He frowned, and the change in his demeanor was so sudden that it almost gave Gaara a break. A determined focus was the sole expression displayed on his face. The Akatsuki's defeat is the key to achieving peace. It is necessary to do so. Afterwards, what followed? Gaara inquired. What are your plans for today? It's possible to become a Hokage. Naruto's head was shook by him. The leaf situation is not the same as what is said to be typical of other cultures. Gaara looked at Naruto, almost speechless due to the implied meaning. There's no reason why you shouldn't become a Hokage. You have shattered most of the expectations and are more than happy to win over the others. Naruto appeared unconvinced. It's possible that it was related to his past misfortunes, but if someone was foolish enough to betray Naruto, then that represented loss of soul. I am here to help you wherever you go, Gaara declared. I am grateful to you for saving my life twice, so I am reminded that I should return the favor. A true smile arose from Naruto's lips. Gaara, I appreciate your help, but you've already rescued me. Gaara's gaze grew wide. He had aided in the development of Naruto, but his words were not enough to have such an impact. Marvelous. Naruto shifted his gaze, and Gaara heard someone approaching them. He identified the girl as Matsuri, a woman with short brown hair. During her time at the academy, he had given her personal training. Lord Gaara, she exclaimed. The lady from Lady Temari asked me to come and meet her. Naruto asked, what's up with you, lady? Gaara stated. That Temari is one of her most reliable confidants. You are aware of her expertise as well. Naruto's smile was censored, but it was still present. Was Matsuri's presence a cause for concern? I can confirm that I am aware of it. You can trust me when I say that I won't hold you back. Gaara, it was a pleasure to speak with you. Naruto was left alone with Matsuri and Gaara after the wind blew around him. Is Temari still in my office? Gaara asked. Matsuri trembled with her head in the air. She mentioned having a wish to take care of something. She expressed that when they made eye contact, her cheeks would become irritated and flushed. He was the one who saved you, Gaara said with a smile. Yes, of course. He is a trustworthy friend. Despite his eagerness to talk with Naruto until dusk, there was still work to be done. During periods of dramatic upheaval, routine had a peculiar tendency to assert itself, and time never stood still, even for the recently revived heroes. Naruto was filled with pride as he saw Gaara's achievements. He was adored and respected by the locals, who believed that becoming a Hokage could be more than just aspiring to be one. He had to find a motivation to become Hokage, but even then, he couldn't. He had gained a notable reputation as the Blade of Illusion. Jiraiya and Gaara were close friends of his, and he was good with Temari as well. Despite his lack of trust in Kakashi, Naruto was settled with a decent group of ninjas from the Leaf. He had a basic requirement for becoming Hokage, to be acknowledged and respected, and he already had those requirements. Hokage's job necessitated the execution of countless tasks, which wasn't particularly appealing. Gaara was not his hero, he had the ambition and conviction to realize his dream. His intention was to destroy the Akatsuki, and since they were still present, it didn't make much sense to dream about what would happen in the future. Naruto had finished his meal and was about to go back to his hotel room. It had been a very long day, and the sun was about to set. He was about to enter that place when a familiar chakra signature came towards him. Temari inquired about Naruto after crossing the street corner. His gaze widened, meeting his gaze. "You're now taller than before, as I wrote." Naruto's expression was a smile. Temari's nose was on par with the top of his head. "It's a wonderful feeling. It's likely true. Can we just stop making short jokes?" "Absolutely not." She approached him and wrapped her arms around his neck, hugging him tightly with a warm embrace. He promptly returned it. "Naruto," she whispered a message to him, "good to see you." "You are also," he declared. She let him go first, and when he did, she smiled at him. Temari inquired, "Are you currently occupied with anything?" "Irrespective of its content." She said, "It's wonderful. I have a specific spot in mind, which is where I want to introduce you to. I invite you to join me." He smirked. "What are we waiting for?" If not for the fact it was late, he might have assumed that they were going out for another long day of training. Rather than that, they were on their way through a village that was well known to him. Gaara had just returned from the dead side in the hidden sand more than a year ago, but the locals he came across were still using daylight oil to cook it like they always do. The shopkeepers were busy, ninjas roamed the rooftops, and the locals had an early lunch. Routine had a way of keeping people stuck in the fabric of reality, and it helped him find inner harmony when he was struggling with thoughts. If Gaara had taught him that he was capable of moving on, Temari would have made him understand that there was no need for him to punish himself for something else. "We're here," Temari declared. "What's your opinion?" They were positioned on a cliff overlooking the hidden sands. The sun was setting, emitting a comforting warmth through its reflections in mirrors and dispersed in bright orange and red hues. Naruto stated that the view was truly lovely. "Whenever I felt blue, I would climb the Hokage monument to catch a glimpse of something else. I was able to forget everything that was bothering me thanks to this." Temari's expression was one of pure happiness. "It's the reason why I enjoy coming to this place. Seeing the village in this way fills me with gratitude for my efforts and dedication. It motivates me to keep fighting." Is the village a factor in this? Or is it not? The hidden sand is a result of the people, culture, and ideals we have established here, but it's still my favorite place to live. Through hard work and dedication, we have earned everything we possess. Our strength and endurance have been enhanced by this. However, it has caused us to be savage as well. Temari's expression revealed a grimace on his face. "I had a strong attachment to my power, which led me to fight for it against people who believed I was weaker than them and allowed them the courage to be complacent. Until someone else did it to me, I never thought I was in the wrong." Teal eyes filled Temari with remorse as they gazed into each other. Naruto inquired if you had ever spoken to Tenten. "In a few weeks after your departure, you'll be back in our company." I expressed remorse for my actions that made me feel embarrassed, and she acknowledged it. Naruto's expression was a smile. "That's really cool," she said. Her face transformed into a contemplative state. One could argue that being weak is one thing, but there's a greater chance of helping someone find their strength. I strive to live by that principle these days. He was curious as to why she had never acted on behalf of Gaara until he remembered that her little brother was the most significant source of fear for her. Gaara was a beast and had little chance of understanding him, so he couldn't fault her. Witnessing someone's suffering wasn't the same as experiencing their pain. That's something that Naruto thinks should be done by a larger number of people, he said. Gaara's mission is of utmost importance, which is why. By sharing his experience, he's showing that you can turn your life around and improve your overall well-being. That choice is a brave one, and we must make it known to people. Naruto's eyes lit up with happiness. In fact, it is. It was almost exactly what Gaara had told him, and if Temari were acting as ambassador and advisor to Gaara, it would be an expression of his ideals on a larger scale than he thought. How many years have you been a leaf? Temari asked. The hidden sand was the subject of Naruto's gaze, heaving his mouth close to it. Nearly 3 years have passed. Shikamaru inquired about you, she explained. I inquired about your state of mind after hearing that you had come to visit us. He was frightened. I heard you say that you were doing well for yourself, she said. Strengthening one's character. I wasn't supposed to tell him everything that went wrong with you. Naruto's relief was palpable as he sighed. Thanks to all of you. His mind was filled with frantic thoughts, and silence did not seem to soothe him. Is Shikamaru's condition better than I anticipated? I've been trying to get him to move up the chain of command from Chunin to Klin, but he's happy with his current position. He's become stronger and a skilled leader, but it seems like the extra effort would be too much. A wide smile grazed Naruto's lips. He sounds like that. He kept his gaze fixed on her for a second time. Thanks for all you did, I truly appreciate it and am grateful for your help. With a warm embrace, Temari smiled. Seeing you like this is a testament to your dedication. Can you explain your answer? You seem to be happier than ever before. Enhance your self-belief. He gave a frown and shrugged it off. She said, I had lots of help. The sun's last rays were visibly seen in his eyes, and he protected himself by holding his arm above his head to block its bright light. Temari was enjoying the light, almost glowing from its beams. It's comedic in a way, Temari stated. He added, I always wanted my brothers to know that I could be their trusted advisor. I can do that now because you respected me and took heed of my words. Naruto's smile was met with happiness. Well, really. He looked up at the sky again. After sunset, the sky was changing into a darker shade of purple. It's late, right? But, before I release you. She placed a kiss on his cheek. Gaara's life is at risk due to the need to save her. Naruto, thank you for all your hard work and dedication. He rubbed the back of his neck and had red cheeks. I'm simply executing my work duties. The only bed in Naruto's hotel was where he returned to. This room was specially made for him, which happened to be the same one he had been in during his last trip to the hidden sand. He wasn't expecting it, but he was moved by the gesture. Without the need to search for lodging, he could make the most of his time in the sands. Given how they came across each other and the ruthlessness she had shown towards him, it was surprising that he became such a good friend to Temari. Shikamaru was brought up by her, which he found strange. He didn't want his friend to be concerned about his well-being, but a few people were uncertain about Shikamaru's trustworthiness. It didn't strike him as being right for Sarutobi to allow a genin to carry out ill-advised missions, even though Shikamaru was known for his intelligence. The meeting that made them good friends would not have happened if Naruto had never entered Team 10's training ground, and Shikamaru had not even been willing to deceive him by lying. Shikamaru had been his steadfast and unwavering friend, with whom he could have relied without hesitation. The same could be said for Tuchi and Ayam, who were not ninjas, and he had faith in Irika. He recalled how Iruka had stood up for him against Mizuki and explained his fondness for the character. There was no justification for Iruka to be assigned a loyalty mission, and even if he had, there were only sporadic interactions between him and Ichiru after obtaining the genin. The fear of paranoia was poisonous, and there was never any valid reason to experience it, except for caution, which only served to disturb his relationships and keep him busy. His thoughts were completely shattered when he heard someone knocking on his door. "It's unrestricted, Samui." His mate arrived with her equipment, carrying his belongings. Naruto nodded. "This is your room. Are you given a room?" The door was closed by Samui, who followed her. "I'll be residing in this place for the time being." He remained silent and didn't look away when he heard the statement. He didn't object to it either. Despite this, it didn't mean that everyone would be in the same position. A kunai collided with the wall and demanded to know, "Are you convinced that's?" It was buried to the tip of his head. After gazing at Samui's blue eyes, he smiled and she nodded in agreement. "I'm going to take a shower," she said, and then proceeded to the bathroom beside her. After her request, Naruto yelled out, "Don't waste the water." Once again, he had his eye on the kunai. Upon hearing the sound of water movement, he quickly extracted it. "It's my wish that the hotel staff didn't voice their grievances." The fact that he was more concerned about property damage than Samui attacking him would have been inconceivable to an outsider, but for him, it was a clear indication of Samagai's trust. It's possible that Samui stayed in her hotel room. The room would have been furnished with ample provisions and amenities to ensure a restful night's sleep for anyone. Rather than moving out, she stayed with him. She was not at risk of being attacked by anyone within the village, but she was backed by him and no one else. She knew he would use the weapon to kill her because she was vulnerable and in the shower, so she had effectively given him one. As comrades, he was aware that her actions were the means to convey her trust. He thought it was absurd to know what a woman should feel without them actually saying anything, but he could quickly understand every small movement Samui made. Every detail of her expression and every change in her disposition was comprehensible to him. He was unsure about how he had become so acquainted with her, but it was pleasant. With a towel wrapped around her body, Samui returned to his room. He breathed deeply as he observed her come up to his bed and sit on its edge. She didn't turn around, giving him a glimpse of her shoulders and neck. Her skin was slick and her hair was almost completely unblemished. There was no shower, Samui declared. Before getting down on the bed, Naruto chuckled. It would result in excessive water usage. "Were you able to spot the sponges?" "I can confirm it. From your own experience, it's clear that you're speaking from the heart. During my training period, I spent a few weeks here." Naruto inserted his finger into the kunai's circular handle and flicked it around several times. "It had a significant impact on my life." "Are you accustomed to the absence of water?" "Yes, absolutely." Naruto asked, "How?" While looking down at the ceiling. There were more pressing concerns to attend to. He uttered, not so much as the Akatsuki." "Whereabouts were you?" Samui inquired, gazing down at her shoulder. "I was escorted by one of the sand ninja. She mentioned that she was your friend." Naruto's expression was a smile. "Temari, do you believe that?" "Yes, of course. After witnessing you engage in a fight with her, we've become friends." His eyes brightened in size. "The frequency of that occurrence is remarkable." "At least not when you're on the same page," she declared. Her lip was tugged tightly with the corner of her lip. "How did it come about?" "She aided me in training during my stay here. This is the reason why I am so skilled at wind-style jutsu." "Is it true that Naruto only trains with the girls he meets?" Samui halted his gaze. "Is it safe to say that you have a strong bond with me?" Her mouth trembled with activity. There was a time when he could see her laughing without hesitation, but it wasn't until today. Naruto inquired, "Do you have any reassurances about the Kazekage?" The fact that he was friends with Gaara wasn't unexpected, but the specifics of their relationship were significant. His true loyalty was to be with her Hokage, as long as they were partners, and he wouldn't be fooled into thinking otherwise. He didn't share everything with her because of this. He was cognizant of the fact that she carried out the same action. In the end, Naruto declared that, "We're friends," as he later recounted. At last, why were you so upset? Naruto's expression changed to a smile. You're aware of the reason why this is happening, you know why. It was as if she desired him to inform her of everything she had or suspected. She said, "I know. I'm not blaming you for anything," she said. He sighed and was relieved that she didn't press him. After that, he stood up and fixed his gaze on her. Naruto expressed gratitude for the support they provided in getting him back there. "I promise to take your side," Samui said. Their faces were extremely close, and blue eyes were fixed on the same color. Standing first, Samui turned away. "I'm going to adjust my behavior accordingly." Naruto shook his head in an attempt to overlook the sudden erupted warmth beneath his cheeks. "Do you think we could get an additional bed?" Samui hesitated. In her nightwear of a loose red shirt and orange pants, she quickly made her way to the bathroom. It was quite modest, but she had been his roommate since their second mission together, which could have been the reason. Nevertheless, she placed her scrolls in the bedside drawer and got up to bed with him. Naruto inquired, with a raspy voice. "Wouldn't you feel at ease in this?" With a cold eye, she stared at him. "The bed is spacious enough for both of us." Although they were not in the same bed, there was a distinction between undergoing massage and sleeping together. However, there was only one bed in the room, and he didn't feel like sleeping on the floor. "I need to be transformed." While in the bathroom, Naruto removed one of his scrolls and took out his beige pajamas. He could have waited for Samui to doze off first, but he had already washed his clothes. He had a strong liking for cleanliness and the desert sand was always present. Upon his return to his room, he discovered that Samui had already pulled the thin blanket over her body. Her body remained, but her eyes were open. Standing there, he contemplated the meaning of everything that lay ahead of him. It's doubtful that the floor was as bad as it sounds. "Are you sure that you don't want to sleep in a different bed?" Naruto inquired. "I'd rather sleep beside you than on myself," Samui declared. "Unless you're unhappy with that, of course." If she truly wanted to do this, why did she become upset? This didn't have to be a matter of any importance. "It's not something I can't do." Afterward, enter the building. Naruto retreated inside, facing away from his partner. It's unlikely that sleeping with another woman would be a dream. "Good night, Naruto, good night." "Good night, Samui." Moreover, he was provided with his own pillow, some breathing space, and ample blanket to curl up. All he required was a good night's sleep. Naruto had woken up at dawn, just like in the old days. He had a clear mind and was untired. With a smile on her face, Samui continued to sleep. It was always a pleasure to see it. Their mission had been accomplished and there was nothing remaining in the hidden sands. While he may choose to remain, the next mission could come from any location. He had to be alert, ready to take action at any moment. They prepared to leave when Samui woke up and got dressed. He had already given Kakashi a thorough mission report the day before, which he had found helpful in writing. They were about to depart without any drama, but Naruto and Samui arrived at the village's door only to find many of the Sand's villagers, all eager to see them off. He was known to some of them from his previous stay, but his fame had grown significantly since he killed Deidara and brought Gaara and Chio back with him. Despite not being the only one who had received thanks, his actions were more noticeable and appreciated than others. As a result, he was certain to give everyone their due recognition. The sight of Kakashi and Sakura and Team Guy was enjoyable, but they had to depart. It was a breeze to say their final goodbyes, as it was only farewell. Although their lives were at risk, he didn't want to pass away anytime soon. Time elapsed without interruption, and Naruto and Samui journeyed northward for the next few days. Naruto had free time during his leisure time when he was not training, traveling or sleeping because no missions had been assigned to him. The most consoling aspect of having a lot of free time off work was getting some much-needed rest, but an added bonus was becoming proficient in meditation. His presence was reminiscent of that of a figure, and as soon as he entered the zone, his thoughts became distant and insignificant, barely touching him. The constant motion made it irritating, especially when the mission grind was too much to handle. He quickly adapted to living in hotels or camps, but it wasn't as comfortable as staying in a real home. He found satisfaction in having a place to call home after being away from it for an extended period. The hidden leaf remained his dwelling place, and the knowledge of returning to his small apartment had been a source of comfort that he never anticipated losing. Being able to spend quality time with his family was one of the things that brought him happiness. Jiraiya had been living away from the village for a long time, so he knew what to do and provided assistance. Her attitude had such an impact on him that Samui wouldn't hesitate to do anything about it. The memory of the village resembling his betrayal made it difficult for him to contemplate the extent of what the leaf had or hadn't changed. The memories had caused him no more pain, and he was determined to return to the past. He was presently engaged in contemplation in a hotel room near the Land of Grass's boundary, while Samui was preoccupied with showering. Energy swept him, from the electricity that flowed through the walls to the energy that was still present in the air. Although not classified as chakra, he couldn't touch it, even though his sensor indicated it. A cat arose from nowhere and fell onto his bed. Naruto didn't take any chances. He simply opened his eyes and gazed at his new visitor. The cat's dark brown coat, sharp black tips on the ears, and wide golden eyes were all characteristics of this feline. The cat warned, "Master Yujito is a danger. The Akatsuki has come across her true self. In a small town situated on the border of the Land of Rain, she's taking cover." Naruto shook his head in frustration. It was roughly a day's journey from their current location. "She fought them," the cat replied with a "yes" response. "Master Yujito is struggling to eliminate the Akatsuki rebel groups, and she has been unsuccessful in her attempts to retreat. She has already informed the Raikage, but it will take too much time for reinforcements to arrive, and she has been fighting for a long time." When the bathroom door was slammed, watery footsteps ran down the carpet. Samui advised Yujito to be aware of our arrival by saying, "We're coming for her." The cat nodded in agreement. "I promise to do it. I am grateful for your help." The object stooped off the bed and vanished, leaving Naruto and Samui alone in the bedroom. Naruto would be prepared as soon as he secured his gear. He was unable to make a statement about Samui, who emerged from the bathroom covered in water and completely naked. He swallowed and quickly gazed at her face, observing its transformation from a frown of anxiety and fear to her typical somber expression. "I'm going to leave," Naruto declared. All of a sudden, his mouth was dry. "I can make it there in a matter of seconds." "You're going to use it, too, shall we?" Naruto nodded in agreement, exerting his best efforts not to let his eyes squirm against the rest of her body and crush its seductive flesh into his mind. "I am unable to make a decision." He ascended the bed and proceeded to put on his leather jacket and backpack, gripping his tantrum against his waistline. After getting ready, he made sure to double-check everything and make sure that nothing went unneeded. "Naruto," Samui declared. Her voice echoed in his name, making it alluring and commanding. "Stand in a certain direction." He turned his back on himself. The fearful eyes of Samui were unnerving and filled with an emotion that he couldn't quite put into words. He ripped the sheet from the bed and then she grabbed his wrist before he could wrap it around her. Despite her dislike for being the object of his attention, she was now bearing herself towards him. Was her trust in him based once more, or did she want him to have an obsessive desire for her body? Yujito is the priority, Samui said. Attaining the Akatsuki without causing harm. I acknowledge that I am aware of this. Softly, it's so nice. Samui embraced him, wrapping her arms around his. The sensation of her breasts pressing against his chest gave him a rush of adrenaline. Her pulse beat faster than his. The bed was backed by the sheet. Naruto held her by his side, hugging her tightly and embracing her body as she laundered her cuddled-up skin against his spascules. He had touched her body before, but there was a special connection between them that nobody else had. With his flak jacket in hand, he went back out. His partner's eyes were tinged with smoke. "Let's not go any further," she said. "I'll be your unwavering ally." Naruto's expression was a smile. "I anticipate the answer." With Samui by his side, he turned around and Naruto left the building in a split second. During times like these, when he required all the resources at his disposal, it was the most suitable moment to request rent from his tenant. To arrive at Yujito on time, he would need every possible advantage. The chakra of the nine-tailed fox engulfed Naruto's body in an orange-red shroud, and his tail bone was filled with 3 distinct tails. The maximum amount of chakra he could handle without being overwhelmed by the nine-tails' animosity, and although the latter had eased his discomfort with their chakra, the strain was still severe. His movements were akin to the wind's motion, as he ran through fields of grass that gradually changed into stone paths and smooth pavement as rural areas gave way to urban landscapes. His body was engulfed by the nine-tails chakra, which emanated from an endless source of energy. The task was being performed effectively, and he reached his destination in less than 6 hours. The land of rain was within sight, and he heard a massive explosion in the distance, which exceeded his sensor's range. He hurried towards the explosion, readying his body to move and overcome the pain. He had never employed the nine-tails chakra for this extended duration. Yujito's stress and pain were too much to bear, so he continued on. The mountain was split in 2 and he saw the remnants of a large building scattered beneath it. 3 different chakra signatures were detected by his sensor. The initial 2 chakra signs he witnessed were the most peculiar, with one being saturated in chakra that died when manic bloodlust occurred, and the other having 5 distinct chakra types interwoven with numerous chakra threads. Naruto grimaced, evidently recognizing the 3rd chakra signature. The chakra belonging to Yujito was rapidly diminishing in size. He was unable to charge the Akatsuki at this moment. Several shadow clones were sent to investigate, and one of them dispersed the rest. He then witnessed Yujito tremble from phantom impacts while being attacked by an unshielded silver-haired man with a black spear. He had a black skin that was brightly colored with white bones, and whenever he stabbed himself, screamed in ecstasy. Yujito was causing damage to himself. By now, the monster had already stabbed him in the leg and stomach. He had to move now. Naruto cloned another person, and this one had blood-red eyes and a feral grin. "It's time to move forward," Naruto declared. The nine tails reacted with laughter. It had 3 tails that were twisted in reverse. "If you wish," it uttered, in the authentic tone. They separated to try and attack the Akatsuki from as many different positions as possible. The clones he had sent earlier appeared to be in on the plot, as they all came together at the fight. Through the use of hand seals, Naruto utilized the nine-tails chakra to expand his hypnosis range and trap both of his targets. According to the big man in Akatsuki's cloak, Haiden was used. His mouth was concealed by a black mask. "Stay alert, take action. We're here to stay." A silver-haired man, Haiden, yelled out. "Get a bent, Kakuzu. Interrupt me once more and we'll proceed." One of his clones had made it to the other side and jumped up high, unleashing a massive gust of wind. Haiden extended his arms, and Yujito's skin developed deep gouges. Kakuzu launched his limb, and its black tendrils extended beyond the limits of any normal arm, propelling itself through Naruto's clone as it hit the ground. The intense memory caused pain, but Naruto's sudden attack was enough to distract him from his illusion of Kakuzu. He stooped backward, holding a hand to his head, almost falling over himself. He then stumbled across the floor and stood up straight away. The clone was killed by Kakuzu in his blind spot, as he shouted, "Fool!" Another clone was struck by forked lightning before it could successfully smash a Rasengan into Kakuzu's back. Naruto gnawed his teeth. Within seconds, Kakuzu had broken through his tumultuous Genjutsu, and it had not even caught Hiden's attention. Yujito's cheeks widened as she swallowed blood from her mouth. "No, please." During that moment, Naruto noticed something: a chakra connected Hiden and Yujito, secured with some blood on a circle standing opposite him. Hiden's damage to his target was not limited to physical strikes, as he could inflict even more harm through Genjutsu. Naruto had reached Hiden and Kakuzu just as his last clone appeared next to Yujito, picking her up and running as far away as possible. Hiden yelled, "Go ahead and take her as you please," while pointed at his spear. "Her time is up." Lord Jashin's anger cannot be escaped. Kakuzu was weaving through hand seals, but the Nine-Tails tenant attacked him with a massive chakra arm, pushing him against the crumbling wall. For a moment, Hiden shrugged, and Naruto had to push him away from the circle of blood with his own chakra arm. Naruto was flung by Hiden's spear, which he spun around. A quick cry with his tant pushed it away, and Naruto used his chakra tails to grab both Hiden's wrists. Naruto generated a Rasengan and launched it towards the concrete that enclosed the circle, completely shattering it. "You're a loser!" Hiden shouted. "Back! You have ruined my ritual." The area was suddenly thrown into chaos due to an explosion. The replica of the Nine-Tails flew off from the opposite side. At the peak of its leap, it roared, unleashing a shockwave that destroyed the explosion of earth, wind, and fire that was on its way. With green eyes staring out at the battlefield, Kakuzu was approaching as the dust had settled. Kakuzu screamed, "Hiden, you idiot, let the Jinchuriki escape." According to the man who couldn't even attack a clone, Yujito was saved from his fate long ago. It was time to depart. Naruto screamed, his thick fangs on his back having been extended. "This is not finished yet. I have plans to take your life and leave you both dead. That commitment is a guarantee." He proceeded to enter his pouch and threw a gray smoke bomb, spreading it with sway in the wind. Hiden yelled, "Girl, I give you here, Jinchuriki. Impact on the duration and range of your running." Naruto ran away and dispatched clones to seize the Akatsuki pair, but they were eventually sacrificed to Lord Jashin. At that instant, the Nine-Tails clone was right by his side. In the same way, Kakuzu had shattered the fog using his wind chakra, and Hiden was cutting through his clones like an expert. What took place? Wasn't able to defeat Kakuzu back there, as seen with the Nine-Tails member grinning, and seeing Naruto's lips reach up at his face with its smile was unsettling. "In the event that you let me be released from my seal, I would have annihilated them both." Naruto appeared to have snorted it. "If you desire, I would appreciate it if you did." He had witnessed Kakuzu effortlessly utilizing all 4 chakra systems, making it almost impossible to kill Hiden. Naruto was unable to defeat them both simultaneously, even in his current state and without proper support. "Is the Two-Tails Jinchuriki safe?" it inquired. Naruto responded with, "Yes," as if to convey his message. "I'm astonished that you feel such care and consideration. I don't want you to have squandered my time and the influence I bestowed upon you." Naruto expressed, after experiencing a surge of fresh memories. "We were able to meet our expectations, but there's no need to be disheartened." A few kilometers away from the duo, they reached a meeting with Naruto's replica in some shallow woodland. Yujito's wounds were too rapid for her to heal, and she was out of breath. He was about to take his first aid kit with him, but the Nine-Tails clone made a quick move by wrapping Yujito in swathes of orange chakra and placing it inside her. Yujito's wounds started to close up, which was unexpected by Naruto. Naruto inquired, what led up to that? It appeared to be a more advanced version of the technique he used to assist Chio, and it had been executed so effortlessly. The Nine-Tails clone laughed aloud. Improvement on improvisation is an easy task. Isn't it just a way to show off your strength? Naruto inquired. It swung open its arms. I can understand that I am not obligated to express my thoughts without explanation. Naruto's lips shifted. Regardless of the motive, I'm content to collaborate with you. I appreciate you for your help in assisting me. The Nine-Tails clone looked at him with strangely contemplative red eyes. The Nine-Tails let go of Yujito's cocoon once his breathing was stabilized. The situation disintegrated, leaving Naruto alone, with only his shadow clone and the trees remaining his only companions. Naruto let go of the chakra shroud and bent down on one knee as the adrenaline in his body overwhelmed him. His body was found with pain in 1,000 places, and Haiden and Kakuzu were still at large, but they were not killed, while Yujito was still alive to fight another day. That win was considered a success by him. The battle wasn't over, by the blink of an eye, but when the Akatsuki were involved, every one of them won. It was effortless to look after Yujito. Getting to safety without being caught wasn't that easy. The fear of Haiden and Kakuzu suddenly dropping in at any time was so strong that Naruto couldn't resist, even as he approached the land of grass border. After confirming that he wasn't being pursued, Naruto secured a room for himself and Yujito in nefarious hotels and forced her into the hotel with some genjutsu. He avoided the questioning of why he held an unconscious woman in his arms as a result. Yujito was sleeping on the other bed at the moment. The relief he felt was palpable. Waiting for his partner to come with him was the only thing he had to do. The toad he had dispatched to Samui recently returned, informing him that she was on her way. In order to keep them informed, he had sent messages to both the Hokage and the Raikaged. With shadow clones observing the hotel room from outside, it was an excellent opportunity to take a nap. He had been awake for a long time, and it took almost half an hour for him to be fully engaged in using the Nine-Tails chakra. Naruto leaned into his pillow and shut his eyes. Naruto woke up to a low groan after several hours. After finally waking up, Yujito joined her on her bedside after he had already fallen asleep and cleared the cobwebs. Yujito asked, "Are you a sight for your eyes?" Naruto's expression was one of pure happiness, as he smiled. Yujito shifted in bed and frowned. Resistible all over the place. Nonetheless, I'll be all right. She struggled to sit. Naruto supported her with his hand and aided her in resting against the bed's headboard. How many hours did I spend outside? She scowled at me. What if it's just a day? How did you come across me? Naruto inquired, recounting how he had discovered her fighting against Haiden and managed to escape. Yujito absorbed all of his words, and when he finished, she placed a hand on his cheek, touching his whisker marks. Are you faithful to your word? Yujito questioned. He sported a smile and was close to grasping her hand. That's my approach. I was confident in your ability to assist me, she declared. My savior is my hero. Naruto absorbed her admiration. He hadn't come across Yujito for a long time, but he remembered their brief meeting during the Chunin exams and their friendship as fellow Jinchuriki. It's possible that her warm, comforting touch was the reason, but he was feeling more sentimental than usual. He had successfully rescued a man who was both strong and self-assured from certain death, while also foiling the Akatsuki's plan. Yujito asked, "How did you manage to heal me?" Naruto stated that the healing process of your body was accelerated by the chakra in the Nine-Tails. You were in a very poor condition, it was hard to get your head around. Yujito's ghastly eyes were illuminated with his dark complexion. You've got it, she said. I haven't been able to find out what my true nature is. He had barely spoken to the Nine Tails during his off-duty training with Jiraiya and did not attempt to improve his utilization of chakras. After securing their deal, Naruto only occasionally communicated with the Nine Tails, and they never discussed their past or other personal matters. I'm putting in effort, Naruto declared. In the past few months, I've been able to make some headway and improve. Her face glowed with a smile. Don't let it go and move on. It's only a matter of time before you start to truly trust each other, as you're now working together. Naruto's smile was met with a kind expression from him. You've got it in your hands, she said. Naruto experienced a momentary sense of loss when Yujito let go of his face. I have a lot to prove myself. Naruto inquired, what's up with you? I can become Matatabi, but I cannot fully utilize her power, Yujito declared. Naruto's gaze expanded in size. If you can, how did you manage to capture them? I confined them underground, transformed and physically assaulted them. I employed a tailed beast bomb to cause their demise. It connected, destroyed the mountain and I thought it was over, so I put off the transformation and went to investigate. One of them managed to redirect some of the blast, causing Haydn to shrug off the situation. Haydn used his ritual to attack me after I was stabbed with a scythe. A grimace covered his face, yet Yujito's words stuck out like a sore thumb. Haydn resorted to using his ritual after stabbing you. He licked my blood on the blade, and then his skin changed color. Naruto's expression was one of pure happiness. We have a strategy in place to prevent him from using his rituals. Thanks, Yujito, who blinked. You're all in the right place, she said. She regained her composure and shook her head in frustration. It's a shame that I have to go through this situation again. It's about time I perfected my relationship with Matatabi. I'm the only one who has done this, so I have a lot of work to do. Yujito asked, what is that name? After a brief stare, she nodded off. The name he has is B. Consistently refers to himself as Killer B. Although he may be a bit of an outsider, nobody else knows more about this than him. If you happen to be in the hidden cloud, make sure to check him out. He absorbed the information in a manner that resembled squishing his teeth. The chance to meet Killer B gave him an opportunity to master the Nine Tails power and ultimately become a great fuzzball. At that point, a clone of him was expelled, providing Naruto with hours of valuable information. Samui stumbled upon us. Within a few minutes, she will be here. After placing her hands on the bed, Yujito pushed herself away and fell to the ground without hesitation. The contact made her grit her teeth. Naruto looked on, ready to lend a hand if necessary. She seemed to be able to stand on her feet, and her strength returned with every move she made, until she was running around the room. Naruto inquired, are you feeling better? Yujito gave him a thumbs up. Clearly. Naruto stood up and proceeded to open the door. Hello, I'm Naruto, Samui greeted. Naruto said, Samui, welcome. She steered clear of Yujito. Naruto observed Yujito staring at the door in shock, and then she shook her head and smiled. Yujito inquired, how is everything? In response, Samui offered a brief embrace to the older kunoichi. Agree with what you say. Yujito replied with a firm yes, of course I am, before hugging her again. Thanks to your dear friend, I am truly grateful. They released their attachment, and when Samui looked at him, he remembered the intensity of her gaze, the terror she felt upon learning that Yujito was in peril. Naruto inquired if they were friends. That's the truth, Yujito declared. Naruto's expression was one of pure happiness, as he smiled. It's a positive development to know. To be honest, he had little knowledge of Samui's life in the cloud. He was aware that she had an older sibling and was concerned about the limited companionship she shared with her peers, but that was all he needed to do. On the other hand, he didn't really mention his life in the leaf. Although Samui had met Sakura and Kakashi before, she was unaware of his time on Team 7 or how he began his journey to learn Genjutsu. Their partnership was liberated, as there were no major assumptions being made. The Leaf's pariah, son of the fourth Hokage, and Blade of Illusion were not his true identity, but rather Naruto. Yujito's expression was one of agony, as he grimaced. She said, "I know you're sick, but I'm starving." Samui asked, "Why don't we get something to eat?" Despite receiving valuable information, Naruto gave the clones monitoring the hotel permission to leave after being mentally exhausted. He was able to handle the distraction that was bothering him. They found a restaurant near the hotel and had scrumptious dinner. The conversation was light because they were out in public, but it was enjoyable. After the Leaf's Chunin exams, he found out that Yujito and Samui had formed a friendship. Their collaboration on multiple missions grew stronger as they worked together. He disclosed some of the adventures he had encountered during his training tour to both Yujito and Samui, with Yuger's interest stemming from her love for traveling across the elemental nations. Just before sunset, they arrived back at the hotel after a brief wait. Yujito inquired, "Are you going to return to your hotel?" Naruto observed Samui's nod and gave it to her. "Yeah," he declared. "I didn't get enough sleep." "I didn't sleep," Samui stated. Although her eyes were narrower than usual, she hardly showed any other indications of tiredness. Yujito replied with a simple, "Sure, I am fine," as if to say something else. "I have a lot of energy to burn off, so I'll be searching for sanity and training facilities." For shadow clones were revealed after Naruto created the cross seal. In case of any doubt, these individuals will be your sole guardian. He made out a copy of the key that had been left in their room. "This is the key to your room. Thanks for your contribution." Yujito proceeded towards Samui and heard a whisper in her voice as she made his way there. After completing his mission, Samui breathed deeply and made eye contact. "I'll be back with you later. Engage in a pleasurable activity." Following that, Yujito departed, his clones trailing behind her. For a few seconds, Samui stared at him. She said, "Go to my room." Naruto's expression was one of annoyance, as he nodded off without hesitation. Samui walked into the hotel, passing the front desk, ascending the stairs, and descending the hallway. She was closely trailed by Naruto. As per usual, there was only one bed in the room. It's likely that she rented the room before their reunion. Even so, he didn't mind sleeping next to her. The situation was a source of comfort, and it had not affected their relationship. Upon Yujito's arrival, she immediately went to take a shower, prompting Naruto to lie on the bed and extend his legs in gratitude. After several minutes, his eyes began to squirt, but when Samui emerged, dressed in a yellow shirt and white shorts that revealed leg muscles, he was wide awake. He was seated on the bed, with Samui as his companion. Her neck had water on it, and there were still traces. The scent of minty hair, along with hints of sword shine, was noticeable on her hair. Would Naruto prefer to take a shower? Samui nodded as he finished. Softly, "It was be good to know. Are you doing well?" Samui affirmed, "Yes. I had apprehensions about you, I thought." He smirked. "It's really hard on me, you know." The corner of her mouth pushed down. "I didn't have the opportunity to be with you. I couldn't ensure your safety. I heard you hugging me before I left." Naruto's smile faded away as he was anxiously worried about his joy. He got ready for the following inquiry. "You were aware that you were a human being?" I was astonished. "Are you a bit pinkish?" "Absolutely not," Samui exclaimed. "I hoped you could see me, please." It was brief for those words to occur, and as soon as they reverberated through Naruto's face, his face lit up like a fireball. Although he assumed that was the case, hearing her speak it was entirely different. With blue eyes twinkled, she gazed at him with fascination. She moved her lips, but there was no sound. He asked, "What is it?" Her tongue sank in, causing her to frown. "There is nothing. I urge you to take a nap." Naruto recollected that some of his belongings were still present in Yujito's room. If Yujito were to return to a deserted room, what would happen? He got up, but Samui touched his wrist. "Don't leave me," Samui pleaded. Yujito is unfazed by the lack of realism. The answer to that question was, what happened? Additionally, his doppelgangers were with Yujito. His possessions could be taken by them. In the meantime, he was in need of rest, and Samui craved his company. "I'll stay where I am," Naruto declared. She pressed his wrist and released him. Naruto allowed Samui to settle down and made the decision to modify his behavior. By the time he reached the other side of the bed, Samui had entered the covers and stretched out, watching him tenderly with a soft gaze. He chose to face her instead of keeping his back, as if she was facing him. The reason for her change in demeanor was unclear to him, but he suspected that it was mostly due to nervousness. Although Samui could have kept the relationship more intimate, being in her position would have made him ill. It required a lot of bravery to come out and admit her fear. Her level of comfort with him had been increasing, and she was especially concerned about his well-being lately. He aspired that it wasn't fraudulent. He couldn't bear the thought of experiencing more heartbreak. A jolt of smoke was heard by Naruto, who then observed it around his chest. It cleared up quickly, revealing a familiar red toad. "My apologies, Naruto," exclaimed the messenger toad. "I didn't mean to disturb your sleep." The toad's expression indicated a genuine sense of regret, as it had already transpired. "With a message from the Hokage, I come on ho." Naruto seized the scroll and proceeded to rub his eyes against him. "Thanks, Gamma." The toad lowered its head and then returned to its habitat. The scroll was lifted open by Samui, who had just awakened from his sleep, allowing her to observe its contents. Members of the Akatsuki have been seen in the Land of Fire, allegedly engaged in personal affairs. Naruto Uzumaki, Samui, and Yujito ni are required to attend the Fire Temple for basic medical evaluations by the Hokage and the Raikaged, before returning to the village hidden in the leaves. The long-term joint mission assignment has been cancelled due to the danger posed by the Akatsuki's movement. The official seal of the Hokage was attributed to Tsunade. After Samui had finished reading, Naruto rolled up the scroll and placed it on the nightstand. He strode through his hair and expelled air. The curtains of the window allowed morning light to flood in and make way for it. It was finally time. He was heading back to his hometown. Samui and his relationship was coming to an end. This was a terrible thing to witness. She had become the perfect partner for him. They were a great team. Without being too conceited, she was able to keep him in check. She had a conversation with him without hesitation, and she always respected his perspective, even if she didn't share his feelings. Her clarity and directness in expressing her desires made it even easier to listen to her. Naruto asked, "Should we be ready?" With a distant look on her lap, Samui was clutching her sheets with concentration. Subsequently, she gazed at him. "All right, not yet." She placed her hand on his cheek and rubbed his whiskers together. The warmth emanating from her touched me was insignificant compared to the intense heat felt by my blue eyes, which were previously cold. Her determination set them alight. He was unaware of what she had planned, but when she moved on and kissed him on the lips, he understood. Soft and wet, her mouth tangled against his. She closed her eyes and leaned deeper into the kiss, eventually sinking into his lap. Naruto assisted her in getting back on track, completely captivated by her scent, taste, and the moment she was kissing him. At last, Naruto slowly regained her affection by giving her the lead and placing his hands on her. It took time, such as a few minutes and several hours, before Samui kissed him. His mind was haunted by the memory of his first real kiss, which also included his sudden need to reveal her true feelings for him, her acceptance of my affection and the precious time they spent together, his confidence reaffirming self and love for his girlfriend. Her utter rejection. Thankfully, Samui released him first, and she took a deep breath. The tension that permeated the air was almost as intense as the aching emotions inside him. His significant other touched her lips, raising her fingers as if she were eager to remember the kiss and the emotions associated with it. After opening her eyes, she saw 2 rows of white teeth that were clearly visible. It made her face glow and her eyes gleam. She had a genuine, full-fledged smile on his face. He was the only one who could see it. "I have a liking for you," Samui declared. The rosy hue on her cheeks was overpowering. "I've never been more at ease with other men than I have with you. You comprehend my situation and make me feel secure. I don't want to part with regret if this is going to mark the end of our partnership. I am in need of you, Naruto. It would be great if I could accompany you." Naruto slowly blinked before taking a closer look at Samui's face, the softness of her bare thighs against his and the firmness with which she pressed herself against him, while the heat spread beneath her waistline. The way she embraced him and his life was inexplicable, making it difficult to fathom. The girl he spoke to after the Chunin exams had such a strong affection for him, but despite her apparent infatuation with him that she appeared to be hiding something deeper than herself. Naruto's statement, "Samui, I have feelings for you as well," was accurate. He acknowledged his feelings for her by uttering those words, but the kiss had another message on his lips that made him want to scream. He scowled instead. "I'm not equipped for this, though." Samui's smile widened to encompass more than just his eyes. "Why?" she quipped, her voice trembling. He was left cold as she slammed his face. Jiraiya was aware of his past relationship, which he had not disclosed to him. Samui would be the one to reveal all the heartbreak that he had attempted to conceal, but even if it wasn't entirely revealed, she should have known why. He was not capable of causing her any harm. "During my time in the Leaf, I was in a relationship with someone and we were very much in each other's shoes. One day we were getting intimate. I believed we were taking things to the next level, but then she rejected me. I discovered that she was encroaching on me after that. Despite her insistence that we should only keep our relationship a secret, she was dishonest, and for what?" Samui asked, "When did you break up with her?" "It's not a question, of course. She was absent from the village on the night I left." Samui placed her hand on his shoulder, bringing back some light. "I apologize for the experience you had, and I'm sorry." The frown that Naruto gave was uncertain. "Samui, that's fine. You didn't do it." "It wasn't," she confirmed. "She had it in her possession. She had issues with the relationship and instead of telling you her truth, she carried on until she lost interest." His partner's eyes were dazzling when he faced her. "Samui?" she yelled with exclamation. "I was primarily socialized by males who only saw me in terms of my physical appearance, and I had very few friends during my upbringing. I knew one man who was not like everyone else. His kindness and his brute strength made me want to give him something to be on my side. He was my first serious boyfriend and we went on lots of fun together. One day he wanted to sleep with me. The reason I refused it was because I wasn't prepared for it. I thought he was happy with it, or so it seemed. He admitted to cheating on me, but when I confronted him, he accused me of being too closed and unlovable for anyone to love. I ended things with him immediately after, and I'm sorry to say that I didn't have romantic feelings for him." She grimaced, her face etched with anger and bitterness. "Opening up to others has been a struggle for me in the past. I was aware of that, and I never excused him for his behavior. He had no right not to cheat on me and lie to me. There is no justification for such a deception." Naruto's heart sank as soon as he realized that his village was not even close to it. "I don't have anything," Samui declared. Naruto's entire body was soaked in relief as he experienced it. He was aware of his own identity, and he knew his father's identity too. The Raikage was also aware of it. He would not hesitate to tell Samui to be loyal to the hidden cloud if it meant protecting a vulnerable little girl. Ultimately, there was no need to worry. After taking in his breath, Naruto let out a slow exhale. I appreciate you sharing all this with me, thank you very much. Samui's hand extended from his shoulder back to his face. With her palm, she kissed his cheek. You're a great partner and friend to me, too. I have no doubt that you are a reliable individual. He leaned into her, yearning for companionship like a man on the verge of starving hunger. He had to do everything in his power to avoid temptation. I'm sorry to say that I can't give you what you want. Her lips were voluminous and pink, and she tugged at them. Don't be hesitant to apologize and say sorry. Despite my desire for this, I'm not going to enforce it on you. If you claim to be not prepared, then I have confidence in you. Naruto's expression was a smile, and he extended his arms to hug Samui. He remained still as Samui caressed his whisker marks, taking in the warmth of her body and the positive emotions she exuded. The last time he was so close to another woman, she had overacted and sent him packing. It was impossible for him to forget the haunted red eyes of her. The wound she caused still stings and burns, but maybe he could finally move on and let it heal. Naruto's only option was to postpone the termination of his relationship with Samui for as long as he could, but in this instance, a confrontation would be inevitable. After getting up from bed, he cleaned himself and put on his gear. Fortunately, the rest of his belongings were taken by one of them, so he didn't have to wander into Yujito's room. After a brief stint of cleaning, Samui emerged from the bathroom in her usual gray attire and Naruto smiled at her. He was taken aback when she returned it. Samui, as described by Naruto, is a very nice smile, he said. It caused her smile to widen. I am grateful for your help, which is why I say, thank you. Are you ready to proceed? Samui nodded in response. Yujito was once again the recipient of their communication, where they filled her in on the instructions they were given. Despite taking it in, he was not anticipating the coy smile she had sent Samui, and upon leaving the hotel and the land of grass, she promptly engaged his partner in conversation. He permitted them to converse and concentrated on achieving the best outcome for their efforts in reaching the Fire Temple. He was more at ease than usual as there were no missions to be found. Samui's shoulders were burdened by the conversation, but he was left questioning whether a decision had been made. There was always a possibility that he would have an amazing time. It would be a terrible nightmare if he attempted to have sex with her and was panicked due to an unpleasant memory that got in the way. Despite the fact that Samui had allowed him to enter her home, he couldn't bear to hurt him in that way. Despite his circumstances, he ultimately decided to go along with Samui. The stone path leading to the temple gates was soon reached by them, but Naruto sensed something severe. The temple showed minimal signs of life, and upon approaching the gates, they observed the ruined Fire Temple. A young woman wearing a body-length white coat and hat with the leaf symbol was joined by two bald men in white robes and black shirts in the courtyard. Naruto inquired, "What took place here?" The senior citizen came forward. He had a thick and full gray beard. To claim the loot of Chiruku, one of our esteemed monks, two men wearing black cloaks with red clouds arrived here. Despite Chiriku's efforts to protect them, he was killed by an unattainable man. Naruto's teeth were sharply pointed at his enemies. Hiden. It was imperative that it be. Who else was involved in the fight? A younger monk asked. Everyone. He didn't have a beard, unlike the elder monk. His god demanded sacrifices from all of us, and as a result, he killed our brothers. There was only one of us who managed to flee. Leaf Kunoichi's eyes were lifted by her gaze as she asked, "Where is the hidden leaf?" She moved towards him, allowing him to take a glimpse of the auburn-braided ponytail that reached the center of her back. He notified the Hokage about the events that took place here, and she dispatched teams to capture the Akatsuki. It's clear to me that. Do you hold the title of medical practitioner? I am Naru. Today, I will be responsible for your medical checkup. It's a good choice for me to call you that. She chuckled and Naruto smiled at her, but then she realized what had happened. Isn't it striking that Naruto calls both of us by the same name? It's great to see you, Naru, and welcome back with open arms. She smiled and started her shift. Her hands lit green as she waved Naru's body across it. After being exonerated, she examined Yujito and Samui. Yujito was still in the process of healing from the injuries sustained by Haiden and Kakuzu, and Samui had exerted too much energy while rushing to confront them. In any other context, they were just okay. As per Naru's instructions, you have accomplished, he declared. You're all set to return to the leaf, folks. Yujito conveyed his appreciation by saying, thanks. Are you staying in this place? Samui inquired. Naru gave a nod and said, I do. I'll provide assistance to the monks by assisting them with any necessary tasks. Yujito's expression was one of pure happiness, and he smiled. As always, I say to you, she added. Naruto inquired, has anyone else come to this location? The monk who taught me was informed by the younger individual that, there are 4 ninjas from the leaf. Master Chiriku's assassins were pursued by them. Naruto bowed down and faced the monks. The Akatsuki's actions are not going to be tolerated by anyone, regardless of the circumstances. The older monk made a bowing sound as he returned. I understand your perspective, but it would not be advantageous for you or your fellow members to hurry to death. Naruto's expression was a smile. Despite the devastation caused by his misfortune, the monk remained composed and collected like a tree in sand. I am grateful for your guidance and thank you. We extend a warm welcome to you. May your journey and that of your fellow soldiers be safe. Naruto and his companions from the hidden cloud departed from their fire temple. Once they were out of sight, Samui retrieved a bingo book from one of her scrolls. She perused the pages until she reached Chiriku's bounty hunt. Naruto uttered the words, 30 million. Yujito sounded like a whistle. Not too far away is a black market exchange point, Samui stated. Yujito brushed her teeth. If that team finds them, they'll need help, said one. Orders were given out, but if they could catch Haiden and Kakuzu before going back home, everyone would benefit. You're correct, Naruto said to me. Naruto said, let's go. The exchange came just as Haiden with his 3-bladed red scythe was about to unleash a massive blow to Asuma's chest. Asuma was not impacted by the incident. The substance penetrated one of Naruto's shadow clones by biting into its skin. The clone pulled the rope that connected the scythe to Haiden, pulling him forward. Haiden was caught in the small of his back by Samui's kick as he lashed out behind him. Haiden was able to escape his ritual circle after being attacked by the pincer. Samui lowered her katana into the circle and ignited it, resulting in the disintegration of the blood with a massive flame that rose into thin air. Haiden's skin tone changed from pure black to a typical pink. Asuma was held by Samui when the authentic Naruto escorted him up. Yujito was nearing the end of her plan to eliminate Kakuzu, who was sapping Kotetsu and Izumo's lives. Through the use of hand seals, she created a massive fireball that charged towards Kakuzu, compelling him to release his targets. Kakuzu retreated from the center of the explosion, but it was too massive to swallow, and the fireball burst. When the smoke dissipated, Kakuzu's body was covered in a dark brown earth chakra. On the ground, Kotetsu and Izumo were struggling to take their breath away. Kakuzu had escaped the explosion, but his body was only slightly damaged. Simultaneously, Yujito and Shikamaru were brought back together. His old friend's face was as stunned as his own. Naruto's response to, "Can you be Naruto?" was a smile. "Yes, Shikamaru. Believe it or not. You're a depraved individual, and you had to intervene once more." Haiden quipped. He ejected a mass of blood. "It seems like the Two Tails are also coming," Kakuzu stated. He removed his cloak and scrutinized a burnt hand. "It seems like a 2-for-1 offer would be the most advantageous choice for me." Naruto retorted, "I'm glad I did. What a lackluster self-respect." Kakuzu's eyes were dominated by strange green hues, leaving him uninteresting. "The only drawback is that there has not been a bounty for you, Naruto Uzumaki. The Blade of Illusion is something I would be willing to pay for, but your death and the Nine Tails capture are not enough." Despite his eagerness to dismember Kakuzu, his sudden, private interest was unsettling. Engaging in skin-tossing activities. The initial task he had to undertake was not to confront Kakuzu, but to secure Asuma's squad. Shikamaru was lonesome on his tired legs, while Kotetsu and Izumo were in good physical condition. Asuma suffered from burns that covered half of his face and a blood-filled hole in his left thigh. He aimed to divert attention, but there was a group of ninjas swiftly approaching their destination. He would have some time to enjoy once they arrived. Asuma-sensei was muting his head in Naruto's voice as he asked, "Can you hear me? You came to this world quickly and without delay." Naruto's premature arrival would have allowed him to save Asuma, but it would also give Haiden time to adjust. If it was too late, Asuma would be vulnerable to Haiden's actions or even death. Timing held great importance for a ninja, and it has been proven twice that they have the right timing to act on time and save lives. The event was deemed fortunate by some, but it was actually the outcome of his own initiative. He was always willing to move quickly and take advantage of any available opportunity. The skill was developed through trial and error, with a razor-sharp edge in performance. Naruto said, "I will get you out of here." He gazed upwards. Yujito glared at him and said, "Yujito, I need you to distract Haiden." "I'm on it." Samui shouted, holding her katana high above his head. She nodded him in the air. As soon as the ninja appeared, Naruto made his way towards the roof of the nearby building. "That's not what you want," Kakuzu replied, "my bounty is gone." He then fired a burst of tendrils from his arm. Samui landed and swept her katana in a broad arc to remove as many tendrils as possible, with lightning protruding from the blade to cauterize any remaining tendresses. "You're in my way." The tendrils swerved to avoid Samui's attack and coil around her legs and arms. Kakuzu kept her in a grip that was more powerful than steel as she cut off some of them, but it wasn't enough to stop him from doing it. Naruto's foot gesture on the roof led him to create a shadow clone in order to protect Asuma. While Kakuzu was attempting to hit Samui hard with his hand, black crows attacked the location before Naruto could respond and Haiden could finish up. Out of nowhere, a man wearing revealing skinned brown came out and used the crows as cover to use his black sword against Kakuzu. Despite Kakuzu's attempt to avoid the danger, Samui managed to burn the tendrils and escape unharmed. "Kakuzu, you have sacrificed more," Haiden shouted as he wrapped Yujito's flaming cat paws around him. Kakuzu grimaced as the hooded man avoided his fist and moved away from the situation. Disgustments, not sacrifices, as they are called. The crows then turned white and Naruto discovered the creator of the jutsu on the roof's edge. His hair was spiky black and he donned the full Chunin style of the leaf. "Excellent job." As he was unaware of the ninja's identity, Naruto proceeded to mention it. Aoba Yamashiro was the name of the ninja, who observed him through red-framed sunglasses. "I want to express my gratitude and say, thank you." Shikamaru was rescued from the sandy ground by Ino and Chai, who came to his rescue. The rooftop was also occupied by the cloaked man, who was closely trailed by Samui, Kotetsu, and Izumo. Naruto inquired, "Are you all right with the situation?" We'll make it, Izumo declared, and they will continue to live. I am capable of fighting, Kotetsu declared. It goes without saying that Samui was a good kid. It was clear to him that he didn't have to see her nod for the moment. Naruto, I can help you with Asuma-sensei, Ino said in a quick reaction before responding to his request. Despite her training as a doctor, who was responsible for stopping her? Naruto then gently placed Asuma on the floor and avoided Ino's danger. We're not doing anything wrong here, Shikamaru declared. He was under the watchful eye of Chai. The Kakuzu man's speed was impressively high. Naruto examined the battlefield. Haiden and Kakuzu appeared to be conversing with each other as they had completely stopped fighting Yujito. The person in Naruto's mind was unknown to him. Yujito had made an effort to distance herself from the Akatsuki duo. You're correct, Naruto said to me. We'll take care of them because of this. The man who was standing guard next to Aoba caught his attention and he observed. What is your opinion on this matter? Name's Raid, the man with brown hair said. His cheek was covered with veins that were visible beneath his left eye. To take care of them, we need to ensure that Asuma's team leaves the area. I'll take you for granted, Aoba declared. My jutsu is still being performed even though they haven't stopped it yet. To tell the truth, he probably would not have been able to fight them with Samui, but since Raid was swift and Aoba's Crow Jutsu was a great distraction, having their help greatly improved their chances of victory. Haiden moaned and grumbled to himself, Sir, can we not stay for any longer? We'll bring you 2 Jinchuriki. He then shook his head shortly after. I am getting irritated by the leader of our group. He looked towards the group of ninjas. I wonder if Haiden was being facetious about the idea of waiting for us to return. He couldn't believe that someone so mentally unstable would listen to him. You seem to have caught a break, Kakuzu stated. Don't expect to be a lucky person again, though. We'll be back, and we're coming to pick you up. The Akatsuki pair vanished into the night, leaving behind a cloud of smoke. Naruto lowered his voice and stroked his hair. Kakuzu was correct in his observation that they did manage to get a break. The casualties they suffered made the long battle unfeasible, and it would be tough to escape from the Akatsuki pair with an abundance of ninja. Nevertheless, the peril had dissipated. He would make certain that they didn't flee during their next encounter. Naruto observed Samui and the other leaf ninjas on the rooftop. At the moment, there was only one option available. We can depart from here and return to our residence. Home is where the heart is situated. The gates, constructed from solid wood and reinforced with iron, provided a welcoming entry point for both proud residents and inquisitive visitors. He said, It was hard to believe, because I found myself so close to the entrance to Hidden Leaf Village, and when I smelled the fresh air and saw these tall trees that bowed with life, Naruto had lost all of his old emotions. It took some time, but he eventually came back. Walking at the front of the pack, he had Samui by his side. He felt reassured by her presence, as is the case with most of his life. He had visited the Leaf before, but he couldn't resist going to Ichiraku Ramen or the Hokage monument instead. It's conceivable that he would reveal his apartment to her before she went back to the village. He had to finish his task before anything else could begin. He entertained the idea of returning to the fire temple for Asuma's healing, but Ino proved himself capable of doing so without any significant difficulty. His old genin team were carrying him on a stretcher, as it was. The stretcher's sides were encircled by Raid and Aoba, while Yujito observed the back. Chai was able to use both of the stretcher's rear handles with ease, and it was evident that he had gained significant height and bulk in weight. His brown hair had become longer and spiky, restrained by a red forehead protector. He was attired in a red suit and had armor that was made of metal, which covered his arms, legs, and torso. His normally cheerful expression was suffocated by worry, which had turned him into a man with grim determination. One of Ino's front handles had a long bang of pale blonde hair that covered her blue-green eye. Her outfit consisted of a sleeveless purple blouse and an open-necked skirt, but she also had mesh padding on her elbows and knees. She had developed a beautiful figure over the years and was obviously proud to show off her toned body, although now she frowns from fear. Shikamaru had the last handle on his hand. He remained true to his hairstyle, but still wore the customary Chunin uniform in black, with his forehead protector's metal band on his left sleeve. He noticed a significant surge in his chakra reserves, but they were gradually replenishing, and he continued to check Asuma's prone form, fearful of his usually relaxed demeanor. Overall, it appeared that his former classmates had also grown up too. A medical team was waiting for them when they arrived in the village. Kotetsu and Izumo were undoubtedly responsible for the announcement of Asuma's injury. Asuma was swiftly and gently transferred to the medical attention. Shikamaru made eye contact with him as he was being transported to the hospital, but his gaze remained unchanged. Naruto's friend told him to go ahead, while he smiled at him. "I'll be coming over there at your convenience later." With a tired expression, Shikamaru smiled. After a brief moment of concentration, Ino glanced at her closely and then gave him supine nods. Naruto's lingering negative emotions towards Ino were subdued as he returned the favor. Chai appeared in front of him and deeply bowed as she and Shikamaru went to join the medical team. He expressed gratitude by saying, "Thank you for saving Asuma-sensei." Standing at his feet, he gazed at Naruto and then turned to Samui. "If you require any assistance, feel free to contact me, and I will provide it as much as possible," Samui stated. She had a slightly softened expression in her eyes. Naruto's expression was one of pure happiness, as he smiled. "I concur with both of these assertions." "Thank you, Chai." Chai shook his chest once before proceeding to join his fellow players. She said, "You're home now, my friend." "Ah, I am not," he said. Samui directed his gaze at him, scrutinizing his facial features. "Let's get things figured out for the moment." Upon looking out, he observed the village in its full magnificence as it stretched past him. He remembered observing the village from its highest point while standing on the Hokage monument above the hidden leaf, and resolved to return home when he was ready. The home is where it's at. The Hidden Leaf Village was nothing but that. The mission's desk was attended by both Raid and Aoba, allowing Naruto to meet with the Hokage. While walking alongside Samui and Yujito, he passed by familiar streets and buildings. His expectation was to see the fear and disdain that the villagers had towards him as they looked at him. A few were scared, but there were a few who couldn't make sense of his presence. Some were impressed by his looks, and others showed their respect by nodding or waving him. Despite the fact that it was his first time in the Leafs, he had undergone significant changes and this was quite odd. Upon arriving at the administration complex in the village, he was filled with nostalgia and a hint of fear. He arrived at the Hokage's office in a short time, and it was as effortless as before to open its doors. With her hands in front of her mouth, Tsunade was staring at him from her chair. Upon making eye contact with her, Shizune stood behind her with a gentle smile that was easy to return. Neither of them had altered their physical appearance, and the office they had been in for a long time had not undergone any changes. "Welcome back, guys," Tsunade said. Naruto nodded as he spoke. He consistently stood in the way of Samui and Yujito. "I am grateful for your help, which is why I say, thank you. Following my instructions, what was your course of action?" "I went with Samui and Yujito to the fire temple. Chiriku, a monk who resided in the area, was killed in an attack by Haiden and Kakuzu of the Akatsuki, which we discovered had been waging war against him. The doctor you sent checked us out and cleared us, but before we arrived, we found out that a group of Leaf Ninja had left the temple. We left the temple and had a team discussion about what to do next. In order to collect Chiriku's bounty, we arranged to meet with the squad at the black market exchange point to see if they could come across Haiden and Kakuzu." "Why did you feel the need to say that?" Tsunade inquired. "You had your instructions, and you were fully aware of the danger that the Akatsuki posed to Yujito and not just himself. Naruto maintained a strict mindset while handling his emotions. The purpose of this was to ensure the squad's safety, as they were unaware of the perilous nature of Haiden and Kakuzu. I had planned to monitor the area and take action to help the team escape from the Akatsuki disaster. Naruto's gaze was piercing, but she didn't seem to care. Upon arrival, what followed? Haiden attacked Asuma Sarutobi with his ritual and I replaced him with a shadow clone made by me using the substitution jutsu, Haiden said, then asked Samui if it was possible to free him from the ritual. Asuma's team was safely rescued by us, with reinforcements arriving shortly after. Haiden and Kakuzu left the location after conversing with a person I believe was their boss. After their departure, Ino Yamanaka treated Asuma and we returned to the place. Naruto, at last, took a step back and relaxed his muscles. Tsunade's presence was quite imposing, and it made him feel like he had to give a verbal report for the first time in years. Tsunade uttered, "It's clear," as she laid her hands on her table. "I anticipate a detailed report from you by tomorrow, but for the time being, I'm here to tell you all." Her expression brought a smile to her face. "Excellent job. The rescue of 4 valuable ninjas from the Akatsuki was made possible by your decision. Your results make it difficult for me to predict whether you will be delayed in coming back." Naruto nodded as he spoke. "Thanks, Lady Hokage." Her gaze remained unaffected as she looked at him. "You and your partner have the option to share your reports with the Raikage. I've reserved a room at our ambassador's hotel for you to stay in until you leave." Yujito's expression was one of pure happiness, and he smiled. "Ma'am, that's great. THX. As for you, I say thank you," Samui replied. "I can't do more than that," Tsunade declared. "Samui, you took care of Naruto and were successful in your work overall. I am grateful to you for doing that." "I'm honored." Samui's gaze flickered towards him. "I had a great time while watching Naruto. He was a good friend." Tsunade's eyes were gleaming with delight. "Risa's a sense of achievement. I won't keep you any longer, dear. Shizune, we request you to accompany our guests to the hotel." "Midi, that's correct," Shizune declared. She escorted them out of the office. Only he and the Hokage were present when the door closed. Tsunade strode around her table and approached him headfirst. Her gaze met his, almost causing him to burst into laughter. "You appeared to be developing your growth during your absence," Tsunade stated. Naruto's expression was one of pure happiness, as he smiled. "Now I'm much taller than you are." Tsunade exhibited a murmured expression. "I never expected it to happen, but now we are in a different place." "Granted, you're still as hurtful as ever, amigo?" She nodded in agreement, but her expression hadn't softened. "I expected you to learn some good manners during your journey, but I doubt Jiraiya will perform miracles. But then again, he made such an amazing punk kid out of a bright-eyed shinobi." Naruto's eyes lit up with happiness. "Have you labeled me as a skilled shinobi? Are you confident that your old skin will remain soft? Are you expecting me to answer that question before or after you wake up?" He could ponder the question. He noticed Tsunade staring at him, trying to keep a laugh in his face before making another intelligent statement. Naruto stated, "I am quite worn out," before fading into silence. Along with Tsunade's laughter, the tension in the room became palpable. "Good to see you again, Naruto," Tsunade said softly, her grin turning into a smile. "You are also welcome," Naruto declared. She placed a hand on her hip. "Despite all the merriment, you've developed into a highly skilled shinobi and your work indicates that you have taken full advantage of Jiraiya's guidance. My understanding is that your position no longer reflects your capabilities or potential contribution to this village." Naruto's gaze widened as the implications became more profound. He sported a smiley face. Thanks, Grandma Tsunade. Despite everything, you have the potential to receive a promotion. If I were to immediately promote you, the elderly members of the Elder Council would express their dissatisfaction. According to Tsunade, don't be afraid to listen to them. Sarutobi-sensei, who is one of my advisors, will remain with me even if I expel them. Additionally, it provides me with the opportunity to set up a series of assessments and observe your abilities through my eyes. He didn't anticipate getting promoted without earning it, so taking a test was acceptable for him. I am cognizant of this statement. The mere mention of Sarutobi's name caused him to become agitated. Tsunade inquired, do you know where Lord Third is currently located? He's on the mission's desk. You probably want to catch up with him, but for the time being you should be thinking about what I have in store for you. Did Naruto have no intention of confronting Sarutobi right away? He would be preoccupied with evaluating other ninjas, and engaging in public fights would not be worth his time. Given that Sarutobi had no chance to escape, he knew that his demands would be met on his terms. The importance of timing was not limited to wartime. Yes, ma'am, Naruto declared. Tsunade's face lit up with a smile. Thank goodness we are understanding each other. Upon his return, Naruto found himself alone and wandering around the village, reflecting on his childhood as an innocent child. He had some good laughs, reminiscing about how he'd run away from angry locals after defeating them with a practical joke, the joy of training or leaving classes, and exploring the village's countryside. His days were filled with loneliness as he sat on an old swing, yearning for the things they took for granted while watching other children and their families leave. He fought to be acknowledged and respected, fighting as if he were standing his ground in an endless storm. Someone recognized him, fought for his right to be seen and treated like a non-flying object. Irika's acceptance of his presence led him to discover someone who was both kind and sweet to him, courtesy of her kindness. He expressed apprehension towards the situation. He was able to find someone who supported him and become friends with him because it was the right thing to do. During that time, his warmth was so overwhelming that he gave up on fighting for his team's respect, thanks to an unexpected source of support. The thought crossed his mind that if he had not given up on trying, it might not have been effective. If Kurenai had been his friend and helped him, Team 7 would have become his friends. It was not worth wishing that his time with Team 7 had been better. Kakashi and Sakura now respected him, and Sasuke had already recognized him for who he was. The memory of his former adversary gave him a grimace that could not be overcome. He had not given much thought to Sasuke since they departed from the village. Given his understanding of the distinction between secrets and disrespect, what would he say to the guy if they crossed paths? Sasuke's revenge was on the horizon, with hope. It would be nice if he could finally let go of his pain. It's understandable that he wouldn't be able to do it, given his current situation. It was not an easy task to let go of past pain, and he still had difficulty doing it. He was subjected to a powerful gust of wind that made his clothes spin. With his sensor in hand, he glanced at the hospital and witnessed Asuma being treated by a medical ninja as Shikamaru made his way to the front door. If he wanted to visit the Nara compound, it would be best to go with Shikamaru, who was easily accessible due to his proximity. Shikamaru inquired, "What do you think?" "Naruto? What are you doing here?" Naruto asked. "I was just going through my stuff," resembling Shikamaru's tendency to tend to the opposite. "I wish to make an appointment with you, I just wanted to see how things worked out for you." With a giggle on his lips, Shikamaru looked at Naruto and the latter shrugged off his gaze. "Just sayin', and I won't take any action. I was on my way back just before lunchtime. Is it possible for me to join you, Naruto? Just ask myself." A sly smile was seen on his friend's face. "Are you required to ask?" Naruto's expression was grinning, and they proceeded to the Nara residence. Despite having his hands in his pockets, Shikamaru had a grimace on his forehead. Naruto asked, "How is Asuma-sensei faring?" It's advisable to get straight to the point. Shikamaru's fear made him averse to seeing him. His injuries were not life-threatening, but they were still quite severe. He's going to be doing great. Naruto's expression was a smile. That's a really good idea. I am grateful to you for saving Asuma-sensei's life. He cautioned, don't bring it up. Shikamaru sighed. To be honest, I'm not interested in thinking about what might have occurred if you hadn't arrived on time. The ritual diagram of Haiden was completely destroyed by you and your partner, even though it required all my efforts to remove. Naruto's expression was one of a frown. It's important to be honest and avoid being a victim. With my extensive experience working with Samui over the past few months, I had a significant advantage in breaking Haiden's ritual. If you were able to remove Haiden from his circle, it would indicate that you had knowledge of how his rituals functioned during a combat. He scowled at himself. It didn't make a difference. We removed his head, but the Kakuzu man reattached it and made Haiden feel safe as rain. My chakra was squandered during the effort, but it could be utilized again by another round and I could still walk over them. Kakuzu would be waiting to pick us up, even if we were able to beat Haiden. According to Naruto, you still slit Haiden's head, she said. You're probably thinking, this is absolutely amazing. Now that you know what his secret is, it means you can beat him up. With his eyes wide open, Shikamaru's mouth slowly opened. He struck his tongue. It's easier said than done. Haiden and Kakuzu must be kept apart to defeat me. Is there a method to remove Haiden's head without getting too close? I need to ensure that I receive the drop on him before I exhaust my chakra, as he will be aware of my capabilities. There are 2 tricks I can use, but Haiden is a bitch and dangerous. Naruto's expression was a smile. You're sly and hazardous to society. I'm not sure if I possess enough strength to continue doing so. I put in a lot of effort during your absence, learning new jutsu, challenging missions, and mastering leadership skills. The first time I encounter an S-rank ninja, I am confronted with them. They made a full complement of experienced ninjas look like novices, and once they became serious, there was nothing we could do to prevent them from succeeding. Shikamaru caught Naruto's gaze as he looked directly at him. What the hell is going to happen? Shikamaru muttered. You've been exposed, but you didn't die. Knowing your capabilities and limitations, you won't allow yourself to fall short. The key is to devise a sound strategy, identify the appropriate players, and emerge victorious. It's not at all complicated, Shikamaru remarked. It's a tough call, but do you think they'll be gentle with you because of your lack of trust? Shikamaru said. It's not a question, of course. As for your response, I'm curious as to what you think it would be. If you have doubts about your abilities, believe that your opponent is unstoppable or lacks endurance, then you've already lost the fight. You're curious to know how you can overcome them. He didn't seem to be too animated, did he? He had to find some sobriety. They remained silent for almost a minute, and Shikamaru could hear the gears in his head as everything he said began to sink into his consciousness. Shikamaru's cheeks were pressed as he expelled hot air. I am talking about the toughness of the Akatsuki, and you are unafraid, even if you risk your life catching fire. He looked him in the eye. Naruto, you're a strong-willed person. Naruto's expression was one of a frown. I'm not familiar with that. There are moments when I am frightened of being pursued by them. It's the fear that drives me. I'm afraid they won't release me. If I want to survive, I must contend with their actions. Shikamaru's expression was one of pure happiness. It sounds like a strong-willed demeanor to me. After contemplating it, he smiled and proceeded to say something else. I suppose it is true. They had completely vacated the market district, nearing the Nara family residence. Shikamaru abruptly halted his movement. He lifted his pockets with his hands and shook them. I am aware of my actions, Shikamaru declared. I will fight the Akatsuki if you decide to do so. Their might is inconsequential, so I'll have to make do with what I have. I'm confident that you have my back, Naruto. Naruto's expression was a smile. The same applies to this location. He was completely convinced that Shikamaru was his friend. However, he never disclosed the details of his secret to him. Naruto inquired, "What was the reason behind your belief that the Akatsuki were pursuing you?" "Kakuzu assured me that he would retrieve the 9 tails from your body," Shikamaru recounted. "It was clear to me that everything I read about you had a clear understanding. I wish we could have become friends more easily." The intensity of his smile increased as he grinned from one to the other. "We've established a platonic relationship and become friends." Shikamaru's expression was one of pure happiness. "That's the truth. We are a team." Naruto stopped to admire the vast fields and untamed deer in the Nara compound. His entry point was filled with memories of learning to play shiki and having dinners with his family, which made him confident that he would be well received even if Shikamaru wasn't present. "I'm at home," Shikamaru declared, opening the door. "I brought a guest along with me." In a house with thin walls, it was more effective to announce your arrival than to knock, and the sound of running back and forth was evidence that it worked. Upon reaching them, Yoshino observed that Naruto's gaze was down and only revealed changes in wrinkles due to aging. "Shikamaru, I hear you're making a comeback. You can be sure of your safety. Who do you have in mind?" Unblinking, she gazed at him. "What's your name, Naruto?" he asked with a smile. "Yoshino, hi." Yoshino embraced him with such force that he almost choked him to death. Naruto gave him a hug and returned it as soon as he could, feeling the warmth that rose from his chest. Knowing his mother, he wondered if they would have been friends or wished for Yoshino's love. Despite being just a friend of Shikamaru, Yoshino had treated him like an infant friend. Greeting him, Yoshino said, "Welcome back, Naruto. We were on the brink of having dinner. Are you going to join us?" Naruto asked, gesturing towards Shikamaru. To some extent, he felt remorseful for leaving the village without prior notice. Despite being betrayed, there was no proof of Shikamaru's parents participating in the plan to keep him loyal to the Leaf, and his departure must have caused them great distress. Yoshino guided Naruto and Shikamaru to the dining room, where Shikaku was waiting after they had removed their sandals. "You've grown up," Shikaku reassured, gesturing to him. There wasn't a lot of change in him, but that was fine. Shikaku was proud to wear his years-old uniform as some things had to remain the same. "It's nice to see you back." Naruto's response was a smile. "Shikaku, you are part of it, as well. You've been busy while away, and I know what you're up to. Do you have any fascinating tales to share?" he asked the man. Despite being more in tune with Yoshino than Shikaku, Naruto had welcomed him into his own home without any conditions and became a kind of mentor to him. Being the leader of the Leaf's Chunin and Shikamaru's son, he was already aware of his actions. Moreover, it indicated that he had an abundance of knowledge to impart, a distinct outlook that could be gained from his older and more knowledgeable state, all while on the verge of reaching Chunin. Naruto stated that he had heard plenty of stories and was eagerly looking forward to a good meal and some downtime before sitting down. The Naras were not his biological family, but they were the closest he came to having a real family. As the sun was setting, Naruto left the Nara compound only to promise Yoshino he would return for another dinner. Despite his appreciation for Yoshino's skill in cooking, it was lacking in personal touches that made her food taste so satisfying. After consuming his entire belly, Naruto headed back to his apartment, immersed in the village's sights and aromas as it prepared to welcome the night. He had a chance encounter with someone he hadn't seen in ages. A green hooded coat was worn over a dark brown coat and pants that were in line with his undercoat. He had a high collar around his mouth and thick goggles over his eyes. He was taller than him, and aside from his pale skin tone, he was barely identifiable. Nevertheless, the insects that crawled inside his body were inexplicable. Naruto has been a long time, no one knows, he said. Shino, has it been a long time? Naruto inquired. It's safe to say that we last spoke during the Chunin exams, Shino reported. It's so funny, how did you know? She continued, just wanted to let you all know that I am. But then again, that's perfectly understandable. Your role is that of a censor, after all. Naruto spit his penises out to the audience. You were on my radar when I was striving to defeat the Sound Ninja, and I saw you there. Shino nodded in agreement. In any respect, it is true that this is the case. At that point, I was unconscious. Shino rolled his hand in full circle, asking, how's your shoulder? It performs as intended. My sincere thanks go out to you all. You saved Hinata and I from certain death, so why not save us? Naruto's expression was a smile. Shizun was the primary contractor, but we appreciate your assistance in completing it. I'm not entirely in the dark, but you still made a contribution. In retrospect, Shino's speech may have seemed odd to him, but it was likely that he wouldn't be so casual. Fortunately, he had plenty of experience working with sensible people. Shino inquired, when did you come back to the village? Naruto stated that, I spoke to you today, as he put it. What's your current activity? Developing fresh Kakache. Varieties? I'm focusing on improving my combat skills through the study of more jutsu. He took a break. Spending time with friends is a must-do activity. Based on his knowledge of Shino's training, he concluded that it was accurate. Given his familiarity with Shino's dangerous nature, it was expected that he would be working to fortify himself. He had never encountered someone who would take the time to be social, as Shino always appeared to have been a loner. Is it a good idea to spend time with your friends? Shino asked. Yes, please, she replied. It's time to welcome them. Shino's account included the observation of two people coming towards them, as he had stated. Kiba's height and muscle growth were on the rise, as evidenced by his choice of black leather jacket and matching trousers, in addition to his fur hooded jacket. Hinata had a similar transformation to the other members of his graduating class. Hinata's lavender sleeveless top was loose enough to highlight the plumpness of her voluptuous chest without being perceived as pompous, while her dark purple capri pants were barely below her knees. Hinata's physique was notably slim with long, sleek legs and slender arms, unlike the bodies of Sakura and Ino. Her back's small hair was of a midnight blue hue. She had shoulders that were level, and she walked with confidence that was unheard of in her life, even when she was deep training in one of the Leaf's forests. I finally came across you, Shino, Kiba said. Naruto, please, he shouted. Man, we're here to greet you. What's happening? Naruto smiled and fisted Kiba. I'm happy to be back where I am. Kiba inquired about Akamaru's location, stating that he was at home. You must witness the remarkable progress he's made into a strong man. He looked at the tant that was tied around his waist. Have you got a sword? He asked, lifting it from its gray sheen, and displaying it to the X-Team 8 members. It was a few months ago when I received it. Is it comprehensible? Kiba declared. It's in your moniker, after all. Naruto's expression was elusive. I didn't think you would pay attention to that stuff. I don't think any ninja beyond Genin is aware of the Blade of Illusion's identity, Hinata said, making eye contact with him. The emotion in her pale lavender eyes was beyond him, but Kiba's smile prevented any awkwardness from developing. Would you like to see me with a sword? Kiba inquired. After Hinata's blinking, the strange sensation she felt disappeared. Hm. The swordsman Kiba. It's possible that you can do it. Your name is on one of the 7 swords in the hidden mist, after all. Kiba's smile grew larger. I bet I could become a great swordsman if I had that sword. Shino was positioned in a bent posture, with his shoulders raised. You may think you're cool, but I advise you to concentrate on what's currently happening around you. By following this approach, you can avoid getting sidetracked by pursuing unrelated matters. Kiba's expression was one of scowls. Good, fine. I was imagining something in my mind's eye. Although he was not always in the right to grow close to the three ninja, witnessing their bond over time was quite touching. He was pleased to find that they didn't have any negative feelings towards him, as far as he could tell. In a matter of seconds, Naruto was in front of his apartment building. There was no change in the red light district or anything else. The wooden stairs still trembled, the escorts were active, and the blood seal that held his keys was still present. Naruto took a deep breath and activated the seal, taking hold of his keys. He effortlessly opened the door and entered it, turning on the lights in the hallway. The apartment that he had not viewed in almost 3 years was spotless, with no dust or cobwebs to show for any effort. There was nothing out of the ordinary. It goes without saying that. Naruto said, I know you are there. Initiate your journey in a different way. Just outside the front entrance, the light shone through behind him. He couldn't conceal his truth from her by telling her. Until now, he couldn't allow her to gain an advantage over him. He was filled with wicked remorse, and the Nine Tails must have found it amusing to be in the front row seat of this much-anticipated reunion. Some of that attitude might be useful for him. When he turned around, his face was a carefully made mask, with no emotion except for the smile smacked onto it by him. She had the same attributes, a white dress, smooth skin, long black hair, ample curves, full lips, and those damn red eyes. She had developed more chakras, but that was the end of it. The state of affairs remained unaltered. No such thing at all. It was vexing. Her blue eyes were firmly grasped by him, and he remembered that if a person could see her smiling, she would praise him and wish him well. Her refusal to disclose her mishap to him led to his sudden realization that he had left the village without notifying her, leaving her in the dark. Kurenai asked, "How's it going, Naruto?" and even her hushed voice hadn't fainted. Despite his efforts, his body betrayed him with its relief. Her teaching skills were still on display, and she held a special place in his heart. After being apart for a long time, what would he say to her instead of constantly criticizing her for betrayal and taking charge of the conversation? He remarked that it was quite good because it wasn't true, even if he had to fight and seek help to get there. "I've been doing a good job," she declared, acknowledging his objection. "I've been practicing my exercises, in reality. I refuse to let my student leave me behind." A smile was almost seen on his face, as it was something she said to show her pride in him, and he was still somewhat interested in her progress as a ninja. "It's a nice touch." Silence enveloped them as they went about their business dealings. His gaze was filled with shaking, and he observed her biting her lip, as if there was an inexplicable question stuck at the tip of her tongue that she was struggling to contain. "Do you possess any new genjutsu?" he inquired. This was a question that would allow him to be in the open air and discuss something she deeply loved. "I learned how to combine my chakra nature with genjutsu. It is important to form the genjutsu and then incorporate your elemental ninjutting style. It's surprising how successful it has been." Naruto's lips were tightly closed as he spoke. "I tried to use wind-style jutsu to carry my gun, but it isn't working as I expected." "How did you learn to control your chakras?" Kurenai nodded as she gave more attention to herself than to him. "Good news. Naruto, you've made a valuable contribution to your own success. It makes me proud of you." He uttered the words, "Claire," in his voice. She used it as a way to communicate that she was still his teacher and that nothing had changed in her teachings. Her blood-red eyes narrowed in on him, and when he didn't react like usual, her mouth suddenly opened up. He didn't disclose to her that he still enjoyed hearing her praise. "You didn't tell me, did you?" He had the opportunity to come up with an answer, too late to create a plausible explanation that would satisfy her. What could be the reason for him to do that? His snub, a nonchalant shrug, was enough. After blinking once, she proceeded to move forward. "You're gone for 3 years, and you can't explain why." He muttered silently and avoided discussing the situation. Was it difficult to tell someone that I was not supportive of their departure during the training trip? Her student's disappearance was only uncovered when she asked the Hokage what had happened to her. It was almost arousing to witness her intense excitement in moving on from his unexpected departure. "Naruto, don't be stupid and say something. You made it clear that you had no intention of being with me." She was stunned by the rise of her eyebrows, which hit her like a punch to the gut, and her facial expression faltered. "You're in disbelief that it's not true." He closed his mouth shutly. "Why did you feel disgusted by my touch? Why were you afraid of me?" He had not anticipated the sudden surge of passion emanating from Kurenai, and he had responded in a kind-hearted manner. She retreated from his accusing stare. "I can't say it enough. I regret reacting in that way and shouldn't have done so. I never thought you would take things this far, but instead of handling it like an adult, I panicked. My reaction was not your fault, and I had planned to let you know that right after you left my apartment, but unfortunately, I was too hesitant to pursue you and avoid finding you." When Kurenai looked at him, her red eyes were dazzling. "I regret not doing that to you. It was childish and immature, and you did not merit it." "Why is that?" he exclaimed, his heart breaking from the constant need for a clear response. I was astonished. Anxiety is a common feeling among people. I'm on the verge of questioning myself, but I can't quite come up with a response. She looked into his eyes, then slowly tilted her gaze back to his chest. There was no doubt that she would not reply, and despite his desire to extract the answer from her lungs, he restrained his response. He would make her confess in a way that she wouldn't admit, but it would be constrained by his terms. "I am," she muttered, and her response cut through his mind like a kunai knife. "I allowed my fear to dictate my choices, and you were responsible for my emotions. Naruto, I'm sorry you hurt me." He stooped to his death, and he scrambled to avoid showing his surprise. The small part of him that yearned to hear her apology swooned from happiness and joy as she acknowledged the harm she had caused. Naruto expressed gratitude by saying, "Thanks." With a nod, Kurenai's body was covered with her gaze as she crouched down. She made another move, and when she stood in front of him, he finally realized that she had to look up to meet his gaze. His height exceeded that of his sensei. She said, "You are now very pretty, Naruto." He was overwhelmed by a multitude of emotions, both desire and unavailability, as she smiled and tried to keep him company. "I couldn't find the words to describe how much I missed you." He asked her to embrace him, and she lifted her arms. She let go of her lips and finished the task they had started earlier. Naruto held her wrists close while holding her hands between their waistbands. Kurenai inquired about Naruto. He maintained a sharp gaze into her eyes, making it seem like he was scanning her whole being. "Although I'm aware that you're remorseful, it doesn't mean that I can forgive you." He had a few moments left to remember, but they all came and went. Kurenai's expression was grimaced, and she retreated from her gaze. He was unable to put into words the emotion that existed in her eyes. Was it scorn or resentment? "It's clear that I feel guilty," she replied, clearly indicating her lack of surprise. "You're correct, my friend. I don't think that things will ever be the same, even after everything that has occurred." As she tried to hold her hands down, Naruto was released. The bracelet that Kurenai had wrapped around his wrist was revealed to him after something bit his left palm. He maintained a fixed stare at it, then shook his head. "It was a good decision to make and I'm pleased with it. It's also true for me." With a smile on her face, it was gentle and sweet, just like any other person she had met. "Good night, Naruto, good night." "Goodbye Kurenai," he said, regretting how easily his name was dropped on his tongue. Kurenai left his apartment and scowled as her chakra was beyond the range of his sensor. He was mistaken. Everything has been transformed. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more content. Support the original author by clicking their profile link in the pinned comment of the first video of this series. They deserve the love. Want early access and exclusive content? Join my Patreon community, link below. Your support fuels these videos. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay entertained, stay safe.